It's Michael and
Ruben
and
no one else
from Bullion Now, bullionnow.com.au, coming to you live on Friday. And why on Friday? Because Fridays are brought to you by Bullion Now.
That's it.
That's it. Everybody that's kicking back thinking, yeah, it's Friday. Thank goodness for that, which I think quite a number of the BN family are, particularly those in Melbourne at the moment. That was proudly brought to you by Bullion Now.
We're not with it this week. I'm gonna like get that out of the way right off the get go. Today has been absolutely insane.
You're sounding a bit flat, mate.
I am dead.
You will stay up partying all Thursday night.
That's all it was. Yeah.
Man, it has been flat out. Still Thursday in Texas. Yeah, I could do with a bit of yesterday still, so I could finish off yesterday. Oh dear.
So a little sneak peek for the future. The Friday you got something to look forward to, because that's how that works, right? We're ahead. We can give them sneak peeks into the future.
Weather's fine.
Yeah.
Spot price went down in silver.
Yes, it did. I actually titled the stream that and Stephen I think has already asked. What's going on there? We'll have to delve into that in a little bit, I think, because that's going to be a question on a few people's minds.
Yeah. It will be. Do we want to go through that now, or we just want a general chit-chat for a little while?
I don't mind. We can general chit-chat.
I'm looking forward to answering some of these. There's some good questions going through. Mel Brock, I don't know what the new postage costs are yet. I haven't broken down the numbers, but I know that I absolutely know that our postage costs have gone through the roof. Some of them are temporary charges that they've slapped onto us. Some of them are more permanent. So I guess I'm kind of waiting for it to stabilise a little bit, and then I'll be able to give more information at that point. But yeah, my suggestion is get stuff shipped out now before we hit you with a price rise.
Nice little sneaky tip there.
Yeah.
When are we getting any more of the 1 ounce Germanias? They were very popular. They got scooped up very fast. What's the go?
No, we've got another, I believe, 3,000 coming in. They're stuck somewhere at customs. I'm not sure if they've hit customs or they're just about to, but they're at the border, knocking on the door.
Are they accompanied by coins?
No, that's a separate shipment that we've got the tracking number on that, but I believe we only got that like Wednesday. So my guess is that's still leaving Europe. It's not out of there yet. So probably 2 to 3 weeks we'll see the coins. The bars should be here, I'm hoping by early next week, but we'll see what happens.
Yep. Oddjob wants to know, there's apparently been some shiftings around within the Sydney CBD for bullion dealers. He reckons there might be a space up for grabs. Are we eyeing off anything?
Funnily enough, I had a very brief conversation with someone in Sydney about that very, very recently.
All right, there you go. You're having the conversations, if nothing else. We've got Calypso Moon in chat. Says, hello, Michael. How are you? It's been a while since we've seen you.
Simbunji swung in as well.
Yeah.
We've seen you've been tending to swing in later on in the live stream. So it's good to see you here from the start.
That's it.
From this angle, it looks like you're streaming from the broom cupboard.
Yeah.
Well, there are some similarities.
That's it. When we lose the wide angle, it looks a little bit tighter in there. And also, when it becomes one of those Fridays where we're scrambling to get everything together, you don't get as nice camera shots because it's a struggle to actually get it all going before 2:30.
See, when we first gave Ruben this studio and put up these shelves and stuff, he was saying, I'll update the stuff on it every week.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure if we go back to the second live stream in here, it's still the same pot plant in the corner.
With the proviso of time, but also, we got to get some of this stuff through. We did actually get an addition to the backdrop there that I haven't I haven't got ready. I don't know if I can grab it or not. We got the card out of the Lay's chip packet that we got given from the Star Wars, and I'll pass this over to you.
Oh, it's not up on the shelf. Oh.
So that was in our packet of chips from 1999. Yeah, if you hold it there, I should be able to throw up you might have to hold it a little bit closer up to it. But we got a Jar Jar Binks card from 1999. And I have to confess to yes, we did eat a couple of the chips because they had been resealed with some fresh ones. It wasn't just us tearing into some out of the from 1999. Don't yet. For anyone freaking out that we opened them, they had already been opened. It wasn't it wasn't like we were destroying a priceless, sealed object from them.
Can't leave anything lying around in this office. It's unreal. So
thank you again to the Midnight Gardener for sending that through to us. And yeah, that was obviously the coolest one, I think, having Jar Jar. They're after our job's after a poll for the Sydney office. I don't know. If we start doing that, everyone just starts defending their own states, and it just gets messy.
Yeah, well, last time we ran anything like that, I think we came out with a Colac office or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't always work.
That's right.
The Backyard Bear, this might, you may not agree with this one, Michael. Backyard Bear says, got my first 10-ounce British Tudor Beasts and a Robin Hood. Their 10-ounce size and quality is impressive. Recommend them to all.
No comment.
No comment. Yeah, I had an interaction this morning in the store with some of the Britannias of someone chasing for their collection a pristine, absolutely perfect copy of some of those Britannias, and yeah, it was a struggle. I will leave it at that. But yes,
Liberty Bleeds Silver. So, do you guys have any of those donuts for sale? I heard you do PayPal now. I had trouble trying to do the whole bank thing with you guys. So, a couple of things there. Absolutely, we've got the silver and the gold tails in. I don't know if we're allowed to call the silver one a tail because it's not actually, like traditionally a tail is 37.5 grams and the silver ones are actually exactly 1 ounce. So, yeah, I don't know how we stand on that one. We do PayPal now, but international ones you can also transfer through Wise. We've got a Wise account that quite often deals in your local currency. So, that seems to be easier than trying to do the SWIFT transfers internationally. So, yeah, you've got a couple of options there, but PayPal being the easy one.
Yep. There's a couple of requests for other products. Wondering if we've got coming through. One of them is, while we're on the topic of Royal Mint, are we getting any of the future Myths and Legends series, or the Tudor Beast is the other one? What's to go with future Royal Mint Silver, considering what we've said about the condition that some of them have been coming through lately?
Look, I've given Royal Mint a bit of stick lately, and look, I'm not saying it's not justified, but we recognise the fact that we still have collectors that want some of them. So what we're currently negotiating with one of the wholesalers, we're not actually dealing direct with the Royal Mint anymore. But what we're doing is bringing in a small selection of the things like the Merlin and the Tudor Beasts and that sort of stuff. We're going to bring them in still enough for the collectors, but not enough. Where we'd bring in, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 of them, we'll probably only bring in 500 or 1,000. So, and it's really just to satisfy that collector market and not leave us with too many that are damaged and being sold out in scratch and dents.
Yep. What about Perth Mint Silver? What have we got coming through? Calypso Min wants to know. I reckon the website's looking a little bit bare on that front.
Perth Mint's not released any silver lately. I don't know. I've got to be honest. I haven't had chance late this week to check check our website for Perth Mint Silver, or for any of the silver actually. I know I had to talk to Adam. So Adam's the guy that's in charge of our stock control. So I had to talk to Adam this morning about making sure that everything was loaded up on the web for the weekend, everything that we could, because spots drop, so everyone's chasing it. So we need to get the variety up on there. I know we're running low right at this minute. We're running low on Perth Mint Kangaroos. But we've got a delivery. It's either going to arrive this afternoon during this live stream or probably Monday morning. So expect to see them back on the web. If they're not there now, expect to see them back very, very soon. But there's not much variety being released from Perth Mint in the 1 ounce silver coin range at the moment. We're waiting for the next kind of series being released, which will possibly be things like the Rectangular Dragon, the Quokka, and the Super Pit are the next kind of range of silver coins that we're expecting in the 1 ounce size that we're expecting out of Perth Mint next. We do have a lot of Perth Mint kilos in at the moment, so they should be up on the web, and if they're not, they will be very, very soon.
Yeah, it feels like everything's been pushed a little further back because of the rectangular dragon. That's it. Normally, I think we have had these by this point, and normally as well, we've also actually had deliveries of the mother and baby. I know that we tend to get them kind of right before Mother's Day, and I still haven't seen any sign of them yet. So, have we heard ETA on those? Because there'll be a few people that might.
I actually expected them here by now, so I'm not 100% sure why they haven't arrived.
Yeah, so that's it. It feels like we're pushed back a little bit more than we typically are at this point of the year, but you know,
Here we go. This is a bullion deal. I'm musing. What do they call it when you just riff? Yeah, it's riffing, isn't it? When you're with an instrument. This is a bullion dealer just riffing. I'm actually a little bit worried not about Perth Mint. I'm not trying to say they're in trouble or anything like that. Don't take that away from this. But their delivery times or their release times on a lot of the 1 ounce silver coins seems to be being pushed back. And we're really starting to bang into the release of the 2024 Lunar Dragon. So I know they stopped production kind of in this June, July period of anything prior, and they start winding up for the 2024 coins.
Which is going to be a big year with King Charles and also it being the Dragon as well. Yeah, so big year coming up for him.
It's going to be a massive year, and it worries me that we're mid-May and there's still a lot of coins that we haven't seen released yet, and we're not hearing rumours of. So what tends to happen coming into late June, July, August is there's this black hole of supply as they retool and move over to others to the 2024 production, because it rolls from the lunar year. One in the release for that is usually around that August-September time. So production kind of starts spooling up in that June, July. So we have the Lunar released. We have the Kookaburra, the Kangaroo, and the Koala released throughout like the second half of the year, which means that until we hit those release dates, there is nothing being produced by Perth Mint and shipped out. Now, normally that kind of dry period, that drought doesn't really start until kind of June, July. It's already started, and it just worries me a little bit that we're going to see a real drought on particularly that 1 ounce silver. They're still managing to produce the Kangaroos. There's no limitation on those at the moment, but it just worries me a little bit that we're just not going to see the variety until we hit the Dragon later on this year.
We've seen that a little bit with the 1 ounce golds as well, because you kind of sell out of everyone sells out of the 1 ounce gold rabbit so soon after release. You do kind of get this, obviously the Kangaroo is ideally the one that stays as a staple where possible, but you really do kind of almost bounce from release to release, you know. And when so many of them so far this year, like the Swan, for example, just sell out kind of the day or two after release, you kind of are left with these massive breaks in releases on, you know, if you're just after a 1 ounce gold coin, you really do start having to look at some of the, you know, buybacks, or I know there was a couple of crew rounds up on our website, things like that are kind of your only real gap in that market while you're waiting for a new Perth Mint release. Or, you know, for us to wait for certain other like international deliveries to come through, things like that.
Yeah, I really don't like this June, July, August period.
Yeah.
Because we cop a hiding from a lot of customers for good reason, saying, "Oh, look, you know, you don't have anything available. You know, there's no new stock coming in. You know, usually we've sold out of kookaburras and koalas by this stage of the year. We're very lucky that we haven't this year. Partly that's because Perth Mint was a little bit behind the 8 ball with their release, and the other part is that we bought bucket loads of the things to try and carry us over this drought period. So, it's an interesting time. We'll see what happens. And you're right, the gold's the same. I noticed, I don't know how publicly I can say this, so don't talk about it too much, but Don't. It's just between you and me. Don't tell anyone else out there.
It's on the internet. It's fine.
That's right. They've stopped producing the fractional sizes of the gold lunar rabbits. So if you're in the market for those, I'd suggest grabbing them sooner rather than later, because we're buying up the last, on a wholesale level, we're buying up the last of the remaining stock out of Perth. So you're going to see those start disappearing off the retailers' shelves very, very, very soon, and they won't be able to resupply them. So it's those kind of things. They only produce the lunar in the 1/20th, so if you're in that end of the market, there is nothing else from Perth Mint that we can supply. They do have 1/10 kangaroos as an alternative, but even they're going to shut off supply fairly soon, because they're going to be tooling up for both the dragon and then for the kangaroo in the fractional gold. So for 2024. So if you're after any of that fractional gold sort of stuff, get it sooner rather than later. Yeah, it still might be in stock for another 6 or 8 weeks, but you're going to find very quickly it will start disappearing off everyone's shelves.
Mel Brock, in regards to some of your shipping costs or whatever.
Yeah, I highlighted that one too.
Without knowing exactly what you've bought, that's it. Sometimes with the weight of packaging and other kind of bits like that, if you've bought a kilo, for example, it will actually take you over. But I wouldn't recommend just paying the lower amount. Send off an email to sales@bullionnow.com.au. And just try and sort it out with those guys, because otherwise there's a chance it'll just get held up in the system, and it'll be sitting there as an unpaid for a while.
There's two things there. So it looks like what you've got is less than a kilo's worth of product, and it's charging you for over a kilo. So 2 comments. One's not relevant to this specific situation, but we get asked it all the time, is why if I order a 1 kilo coin, why am I being charged for greater than 3 kilo postage? And that's because we've set it that way because of the packaging that we have to include in it. They have to be pretty much sent out by themselves. We can't include them with anything else because of the damage that they can cause either to themselves or to the other products around them. So it's increased that way. What you'll find in this example, Mel, is that you will be close to a kilo. So while you look at an ounce coin and you think, well, that's 31 grams, it's not actually 31 grams, because you've got to include the capsule and you've got to include the packaging with it as well to protect it inside the box. So you'll actually find if you're 950 grams, the system will say, actually, by the time we add the packaging and all that to it, it's going to take you over the kilo. And so it calculates you at between 1 and 3 kilo at $25 rather than that $17.50 for the under 1 kilo. So what it means is don't go quite that close to the kilo mark. I think usually you get away with 900 grams. I think if you start going to that 940, that's where it starts to kick in and say, actually, by the time they include packaging, it's going to push it over to the kilo. And you want the packaging. You don't want us to cut back on that packaging to get it under the kilo, because even though you're going to pay $7.50 less, you're going to find your package turns up damaged. We've got this down to a pretty scientific art now.
There's an interesting comment there from Mark Twain that I kind of want to at least briefly touch on.
That was the other one.
I'm highlighting it all the same ones. Recently bought those Samoa coins.
No, different one. Keep going.
The Warner Brother coins, and damn, the quality on those was the worst I've ever seen, worse than the Britannia. But the White Tiger was bloody stunning. What's the go there?
The White Tiger was, there is no doubt, it was right up there with the best of them. It was beautifully produced. I've got to admit, and I think I said this on the unboxing, I was slightly, not disappointed, that's too strong a word, but I found the Looney Tunes a little plain Jane, I suppose. I thought the quality was okay, but it was really just a coin with a series of circles on it and the character there. And I don't think they drew enough detail out. I think the Bugs Bunny was pretty good. The
Bugs Bunny was great, and I think it was because it had the matte background and you couldn't see the gloss, and therefore any marks or whatever didn't show up.
That's right. The others,
the others had a reflective background, and that is the quote-unquote quality issue that I had with them, was just that any mark showed up, and you actually saw some additional rings on a few of them.
Yeah. You got to remember that bullion coins, like normal bullion coins like these, aren't produced to proof quality or high relief quality or anything along those sort of things. So you do get these blemishes in the coin itself. And even if we go back to, and I was it Sunshine Mint that produced those? I can't remember. Whichever mint produced them, they would say, look, they're a bullion coin. That's well within the criteria of the production of them. So, yeah, I'm always a bit hesitant when we get these mirror finished bullion coins because they just show even the fraction of, even the most minuscule blemish will be highlighted in those. I'd actually forgotten that, Rubes. That's a good call.
The problem is as well is you can't even just base it on the design of, okay, this has a reflective background or whatever, so, we're just not going to touch it at all, because you look at some like the bull and I use these as an example all the time, but the bull and bear and the goddess Europa have a super kind of reflective background. They're great. Love them. I reckon we get a bunch more of them. And so
that's the different, and I'm going to get smacked for this if anyone in the industry hears me say this, but that's the difference between a quote-unquote mass-produced bullion mint and a almost private artisan mint where they're producing a much smaller quantity at a much higher quality and usually at a slightly higher price. It doesn't have to be a major, but it's a slightly higher price as well because of the care they take into it. And when you're talking the Goddess Europa and the Bull and Bear, we're talking an exceptional mint there.
Yeah.
So that I would say that's the
exception to the rule as opposed to the
in this case I would absolutely say it. And that's not to have a dig at the others, but you've got to look at the market that they're swinging for. They're not after the mass-produced market. Even though it's a standard bullion coin, it's still that slightly higher-end bullion market they're aiming.
Yeah.
I've got another one from Mark Twain that I'd like to touch on.
Yeah, go for it.
I thought to myself that I would love to save some cash for the upcoming Dragon, but then I thought right now the price of silver is most important to me, so why wait and risk it going up? And I know I'm blowing our own trumpet here a little bit, but this is the exact reason
unallocated
people use unallocated, because they go, spot's a great price at the moment. I know I'm going to want to buy these Dragons, in 3 or 4 months' time, but I don't want to wait that long and have the price double in between now. I mean, I'm not saying silver's going to double, but I don't want the price of silver to go up substantially between now and then, and so I'm paying $70 for my Dragon, where if I pay today's spot plus the premium, I might be only paying $43 or $45 or something like that. So what a lot of people do is they actually lock in the spot price now with their unallocated, and then when the Dragon gets released, they order 20 of them, 50 of them, 100 of them, whatever it is, and then they say, can you pay for that with the unallocated that I've got? So the spot that they locked in today, they use that in 4 months' time, and then they say, just send me the bill for the bit of premium over the top, because that premium doesn't really change. It's just the spot price that goes up and down. So, Mark, if you want to lock in today's spot so you can save the money for the Dragon later on, have a look at our unallocated program. And, yeah, that was a shameless plug.
There's been a couple of questions about the kilo Brits. And part of that is a screw up on my end, but a part of it is us needing to go through and figure out exactly how many of the limited amount we got through we are actually able to sell, and we actually haven't done that yet to kind of have concrete numbers for it.
We have not. It's been a pretty chaotic week, and we've had a few people away for various reasons. I seem to be using that excuse a bit too much lately, but we have a few of the guys have been away, so. It's kind of dragged us away from being able to assess things like the kilo Brits and also the goldbacks. So they have arrived, and hopefully they will be released early next week.
Do you want to talk about them?
Yeah, what the heck?
I did bring.
Oh, you've already got the photos, haven't you?
I have a photo.
A photo.
It's
right out there.
In with the insanity, I went. Let me just quickly spread these out, and I'll show it. But I've also got them. They're sitting there in an envelope in front of you with a glove. just there.
If we just flick the
all
photo
right,
up.
well, I'll flick the photo
I'm
up.
paranoid about damaging one.
So we have a spread, a variety of the goldbacks that we will be figuring out how best to release, how best to have them all up as individuals or whatever. Because there's not only the different denominations, there's also then the different locations. You got Utah, Nevada, things like that.
Right.
I think there is
Nevada, Wyoming, and the fourth one.
the other one. For those that may not be aware, they are very, very fractional gold. So they contain very small amounts of gold within them, but it's got gold in it.
Please do not buy them for their gold content.
Do not, or even for low premium stacking, because they are absolutely not that.
No, this is.
I don't have pricings yet because that's one of the things we're waiting for.
These are the novelty side of stacking. They're the novelty side of. They're an interesting addition to your stack, particularly if you want a talking point. Why would you stack gold? It's a waste of time. Well, have a look at this. This is a gold back. It's backed by gold. This is a normal dollar. It's not backed by anything. It's just a promise, and it encourages those discussions. I think they're great fun, but they are absolutely not for stacking gold in and of itself.
Yeah,
they aren't cheap, and I haven't worked out the price. So even the rough price I'm going to give you is probably way out, but we're talking somewhere around about that $9 to $10 mark. And I haven't done the numbers yet, so don't pin me on this, but I'm not going to be that far out. Somewhere around about that $9 to $10 mark per gold back. So meaning, for example, let's keep it on round numbers because that's all my brain can cope with on a Friday afternoon. So, if you buy a 1 gold back note, it will be $10. If you buy a 50 gold back note, it would cost you $500. We're talking Australian dollars here. So that's kind of what you're looking at. They are all fungible. So they're all going to be the same denomination, the same amount as they go through. And yeah, sure. Look, the theory is, although I don't believe anyone would be crazy enough to do this in the shorter term, but the theory is that you can actually, you can bring in a 50 gold back, you can buy your 1 ounce of silver or whatever you're doing, and you can get the change back in smaller denomination gold back. So it actually becomes a tradable, fungible note. So that's the theory behind it. I will be very surprised if anyone does that. It's the same as, a 1 ounce silver kangaroo from Perth Mint has a face value of $1, but no one's coming in paying for their product using kangaroos as a $1 coin because you just wouldn't do it. But look, they're fantastic. They are
iconic. Lots of people have been after them. They're particularly hard to get over this side of the world.
Tell me about it.
So that's it. It's even though we're listing all these things off as almost phrasing it like negatives, they are actually still a really cool item. But you just have to keep some of those things in mind, But that doesn't mean they're not still cool.
No, they are. They're incredibly cool. Look, the actually one of the major challenges that's been causing massive arguments in the office is that I don't want to store them. Because if we put them into our secure storage facility, all it's going to take is some turkey to be a little bit clumsy with a 1 kilo bar, and it's going to destroy some goldbacks. So I'm desperately trying to work out a way that we can just ship them straight out. I don't want to have them in storage here for any longer term because it's just too hard. They're such a fine sheet that I'd hate for any of them to get damaged. So that's actually what's causing the hold up is how do we best preserve these and look after them and make sure that you get them in pristine condition. So
there's a bunch of people asking about the wallets for them, and that would kind of also help that a little bit.
Yeah, we don't have any of the wallets for them.
No, that might be the solution to your problem though.
Yeah, it could be. So what we're actually looking at the moment, and Ruben's got one here, is it's a cardboard envelope to protect them. So look, if you buy them, whatever we do with them, when we release them, if you want to buy them, I'd really, 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 really appreciate it if you either came in store and picked them up, or we ship them to you separately if we can work out how to do that without getting them damaged. I really don't want to store them here. I'm just very, very concerned because we can't leave them anywhere near our secure storage facility just in case. And it's not like we go back there and throw things around, because we don't. But, like everyone's, at times you kind of bump something, or you just, you move it aside because you're trying to grab something else. And all it takes is for a kilo bar to bump into these, and I can see them being not as good condition as they should be.
Yeah. Midnight Gardener has used some to purchase some honey. So, in regional Victoria. So there's at least someone out there that that trades in them.
Pluma. I never know how to pronounce your name, mate, so I've probably butchered the living daylights out of it. Does BN facilitate an in-house low-cost swap between gold and silver, or is it a straight sell buyback? It depends.
Because we buy back at spot, it kind of, becomes a swap, but with you paying the premium, but not really.
Yeah, so look, it really does depend. There's a couple of different things here. If you walk in with a mouldy old, actually I like the mouldy old one, so it's probably a bad example, but if you walk in with a really knocked around, basic Perth Mint kilo bar that you've kicked from pillar to post, and you want to swap it over for silver premium coins, it's not going to be a straight swap. You're going to find that we're going to have to skew it fairly heavily in our favour to cover the fact that we're not going to be able to sell this bar for very much, and you're swapping it for a high premium product. Or vice versa. You may find if you bring in, really nice condition collector coins, bullion coins, and you're swapping it for just a plain old, bar, then you may find that it moves more towards your favour. Obviously, we're still a business, so we still need to make money out of it at the end of the day. If you're looking for the lowest swap, though, between gold and silver, again, this is another shameless plug for the same thing, but our unallocated program allows that far more easily than a physical swap over, because it really is just an electronic, from your end, it's not quite from my end, but from your end, it's basically just an electronic switchover. So you'll find there's very little premium loss when you do that. Obviously, it now means that you're selling in gold and swapping it over for silver. I now have a long gold position, short silver position that I've now got to match up in physical, because we always back our unallocated program with physical. But from the front end, it looks like there is no real movement. It's just me scurrying around in the back, which is no big deal because I do it every day anyway.
The question is being asked, and I think it's being asked enough that we have to touch on it. Do we buy back the goldbacks at spot?
I'll buy them back at spot. I got no issue with that at all.
I wouldn't recommend selling them back to us, is the long and the short of it, because you are paying so much, not so much more above spot, but as we were saying, they're not an economical, close to spot way of stacking. So getting rid of them for spot isn't a good way of doing it. So whilst we'll be able to buy them back at that, why would you?
Look, at the end of the day, we buy back at spot. So yes, we'll buy back at spot. And look, if I'm completely honest, if you walked in with a fistful of goldbacks in good condition, like they'd have to be in really nice condition, we're not going to buy them back at spot. I'll probably do you far better than spot on a goldback. Don't start bringing in all your numismatic stuff, because I'm not going to do that.
You've opened the can of worms.
Like with a goldback, I recognise what they are, and we'd probably do it anyway. I hope that answers your question sufficiently.
Mark Grant wants to know if that's one of the gold powders tied to the mic that they sold back to us recently. It's entirely possible. I grab a random one, so
Sorry, what are we looking at now?
The Bullion Now bag attached to your mic. Who knows?
Yeah. BJ, you're correct. Goldbacks are not bullion, so would incur GST. That's absolutely right. Which is why I was looking at the prices in the States compared to what we pay here, and they look expensive here. Because of the conversion rate on AUD, USD, but also the fact that we then have to add GST to them.
Yep. We had someone send through an image from last stream that I kind of wanted to look at, and it was
Can I just drag you just for 1 second? Midnight Garden makes a great point. Goldbacks are also a great conversation starter and make good little presents for younger children, getting them into stacking and collecting. And added tooth fairy currency. I love that. But you're right. It's kind of what we used to use the 1 gram, but a lot of people still use the 1 gram for. It's that good little size that you can give it away and it's not going to break the bank, and it starts the conversations, it starts the processes. So you can give them to the kids and the grandkids, and maybe the neighbour over the fence and that type of thing. Although 1 gram of gold is starting to get up there. I think a Perth Mint now is up over $120 for a 1 grammer. So it's starting to get to serious money again. Sorry, mate.
Now that I'm going to derail myself now. Now that we're getting close to actually releasing these goldbacks, there's an interview floating around from Germany with the guys that actually make these, that I'm hoping, because of some of the stuff we said in there, we haven't been able to release it yet.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that we'll be able to actually release them soon. And one of the products that I think they actually had over there, I'm not sure if I got too close to look at them or not, but it's funny you say that, I think actually was a Tooth Fairy certificate made of the same stuff as the goldbacks. So that's it. It was literally a Tooth Fairy certificate, made in gold for the exact same reasons he's pointed out there. So, but yeah, hopefully with these coming, stand by for an interview there as well. We kind of got to have a bit of a look at some of the artwork and stuff. I know a few people have mentioned that being one of the cool things about these as well. So yeah, hopefully stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah, so hopefully next week the goldbacks will be on the website. We'll make a bit of a song and dance and available in store.
Goldbacks, what about the gold fronts? Oh no. Oh dear. I wanted to quickly throw up this image, and I've actually seen this bandied about a little bit on the internet recently, but it's showing the size of the collapses from the banks that we've had just happen recently versus the scale of some of the ones in 2008. Washington Mutual Bank being a big one there, the biggest over in that 2008 period. And obviously there's a lot more that went down, but some of the scale of the ones that we've had recently are quite significant. And I think it's a really great kind of picture to kind of, put in perspective kind of what's happening in the US at the moment and why it might be cause for, I want to say panic, but cause for at least concern or looking into what's happening over there. And I'm going to kind of handball that a little bit to you because, there's a lot of people wondering at the moment, hey, what's happening with the US dollar? What's happening with the banks? All that kind of jazz. What's the latest update of the week?
Man, I mean, look, if any of us really actually knew what was going on, we'd be doing this live stream from the back of my yacht out in the Mediterranean somewhere. And anyone who says they know what's going on, honestly, run a mile, because none of us really do. There are so many backroom deals and interested parties and coincidences and everything else you can throw at this, and every single one of them would be true. What we're seeing now, though, that's the worry, and if you want to throw that chart back up, if you look at 2008, there was a couple of big ones and then a whole multitude of little ones failing. What we're seeing this time round is big ones failing, and there's not the multitude of little ones. So there's a couple of things that are concerning me with that. And we had, again, last night, the US is worried that there's another bank, and I can't remember its name. I knew I should have jotted it down, but there's another bank teetering on the edge. Its share price dropped by 20 or 30% overnight, and they're quite concerned about it. We're seeing larger banks fall over. We're seeing in the US, and this is, for now, let's say it's specifically a US problem. We're seeing the bigger banks, people flooding to the bigger banks, like the much bigger banks, the JP Morgans of the world, and depositing their money because it's because it's safe. And JP Morgan are quite openly saying, well, thank you very much for your money. We're actually going to deposit it in the smaller banks to try and prop them up because it's in their best interest to prop them up. Great interview with Jamie Dimon over the last day or two that's been reproduced, where he talks about this sort of thing and what's happening in the banking sector, because he is the only US head of a bank that was around in 2008 that is still around to this day. So he has seen a lot of it, and his interviews are usually quite candid. I quite like Jamie Dimon's interviews. I may not agree with all of his decisions and observations, but it's certainly he's certainly very good to interview. But yeah, what we're seeing is not so much of these smaller banks failing because they're being propped up by the larger banks, but we're seeing these medium to larger banks failing. And that's a big concern, because if this merry-go-round stops, we've built up this, the right hand's feeding the left hand scenario. If one of the hands fails, the whole lot comes down in a very large crash. And I think that's what we're starting to see people concerned about in the US now, is that if this keeps letting go, if they lose another one, the last 6 weeks or so, everyone in the US seniority, so the government, a lot of the major banks, the FDIC, they're all saying, look, the banking crisis is over. The banking crisis is over. If it proves not to be over, if this next one does fall over properly, and they can't cover it like they did with the one last week, where they sold it off to JP Morgan on the quiet. Well, it wasn't really on the quiet. I mean, they did publicise it, but they had to give them the biggest sweetheart deal there was on earth to get it over the line. If this banking crisis isn't over, and they've been, quote unquote, lying to us for the last 6 weeks, mate, it's on for young and old.
We've let's say a lot has been we've spoken for the last 45 minutes or so. Can we touch on silver price and why it's dropped and all that? Considering what you're talking about, the banks there, is some of the panic starting to come out of the market? Is that because something's happened in the industrial side of things that we talk about silver being a little bit more reliant on than gold? What's the go with the silver price? Why did it drop?
If the panic had come out of the market, you would have seen gold take a far larger hammering. It dropped slightly overnight in USD, but it wasn't anything major. And in fact, the Australian dollar copped a hiding, which I think is a second look at the silver. The Australian dollar copped a hiding, which actually drove the price of gold up in Australian dollar terms. So what you've got there is the panic is still there. We're still seeing that demand for gold through the roof. The other side of the coin, though, is what we're seeing with silver and the Australian dollar, is that people are now worried, and this comes back to the bank that is teetering, that they're all talking about in the US at the moment. It's more of a business bank, it's more of an industrial bank. So there's concern that industrial demand, business demand, that end of the demand is going to collapse, and we're going to move into a recession. There's been a lot more of that talk in the US overnight, that they're talking, some of the studies are now saying they've got an 80% chance of a hard landing in the US now. That would then panic that 70% of the silver market that is industrial based, and they will start pulling back, and that's the concern. And that's to a large degree why we saw the silver price drop so dramatically overnight. And you've also got to remember that one thing feeds off another. So the price drops a chunk, it trips out everyone's stop losses, so there's another flood on the market, so that drops at another chunk, which trips out a lot of other stop losses. And then that, causes another failure of support lines as well. So there's quite a number of things happening there. But I think if you go back to its root stock, the reason why it dropped and the reason why the Australian dollar dropped is because we are very commodity heavy, and the commodities are starting to get hammered because people are worried about this hard landing in the US now. And I think that's a lot of it.
Stephen's comment there is, then why is platinum still high since it's also industrial?
It is still high, but it's come off a bit. And again, I would argue that it's come off because it's industrial based, but it's still high because there's recognition that a lot of the governments around the world, Europe, US, Asia, Australia, a lot of those governments are throwing fairly serious money at reducing their greenhouse gases and their carbon footprint, and a lot of that leads back to eventually higher demand on rare earths and the platinum and palladiums of the world. And that is starting to really push the price of platinum up. So even when it does get this, it's the industrial side's collapsing, there is the case of, well, okay, it might be collapsing, but we still know they're going to need it, because if we make this commitment to be, X carbon neutral by 2025 and 2030 and 2035 that all these governments are bandying around, they have to come back to the rare earths and the inert metals.
I think I think it might already be sold, so it is just going to be a little bit of a highlight rather than anything else. But I found a really cool bar and buyback, and actually had one of the guys here have one of their own coins bring in to show me. And I just want to flash them up really quick because it's a really cool for me kind of link between bullion and stacking and the banks. And we've got there, that's it, a Westpac 1 ounce silver, and a nice little slab there, and also a 5 ounce gold done by Johnson Matthey for Westpac, stamped as them as well.
Back when the banks actually dealt in precious metals as well.
That's it. And it's been interesting in my time here seeing some of these bars come through. Not just Westpac, but that's it. We've also seen kilo silver bars out of the Commonwealth, what is now the Commonwealth Bank, given out as like basically long service kind of.
Oh yeah, and State Bank of Victoria did it as well.
Yeah.
Where they gave out 250 gram. I think there's 500 kilos as well. But certainly the 250 gram, they handed those out as service medals. Yep.
And I think Con was here telling me about some ones for Bank West that Perth Mint have done up as well. Like, it's this fairly common thing, at least in years gone by, that these banks were actually like, oh yeah, this is something we'll do either as just a special event, but they stored. I don't know. I'm not sure kind of how to phrase what I'm thinking, but basically that there was an understanding of the value even within the banks, and they weren't shy about putting their name on bars of either gold or silver.
Well, it wasn't. It's within my living memory. No, not really. But it's not that long ago that the banks were, like our currency was backed by gold.
Yeah.
So the banks were very, very conscious of that, and it was part of their everyday culture. They knew that the notes that they were handing out, I can't remember the exact wording, but effectively this can be surrendered for the equivalent amount of gold or silver.
Yeah, it was a receipt.
Yeah. So, like we laugh about these things and we joke about it, but particularly in Australia, because we don't have a very heavy precious metals background, it's not been drummed into us like some of the other cultures around the world. It's good to see. Let's leave it like that.
Brian says, Chinese banks are now selling gold. Yeah, that's it. We've actually seen a few of those come through with
German
Chinese
banks
bank. Yeah, and I was going to say German and Swiss. We've seen, obviously a few of those as well. Yeah. So that's it. It's interesting to see, but that's it. I hadn't seen too much. I've seen the odd one, but I hadn't seen too much that kind of, with a bit of a local Australia kind of stamp on there. So that was that was cool to see. So some very interesting products.
Yeah, we've actually either got or had a 10 ounce gold bar with Westpac stamped on it.
I hadn't seen that one, so there you go.
Yeah,
but they existed.
Yeah, one from Jay. G'day from the US. I should have read this properly, shouldn't I? What got you to start Little Coin Shop and then Bullion Now after? How did you go from that after being a pilot? Thanks for being the best bullion channel on YouTube. You are very welcome. I'm from the dark side. I collected coins all my life. Had a fascination with them since I was very, very young. Also had a fascination with flying since I was very, very young. And both have been integral in my life the whole time. While I was flying, I was growled at by our accountant and told that if I was going to trade coins like I was doing, I had to admit to it to the tax department before they found out and made me admit to it. And that was actually the start of Little Coin Shop. We incorporated it and away we went. But it was always, it started out for the first while as a hobby, although it was a fairly serious hobby even back then, and I was still flying at that stage. And it grew and grew and grew, and I pulled back from flying because of family reasons to a large degree. And Little Coin Shop took over, and then we got to a point where we would deal in some fairly large transactions with some wealthy people, and they'd turn around and say, "Well, I've just spent $200,000 on a coin or a couple of coins, but I really want to buy a kilo of gold or some silver or whatever. And we used to say, oh, look, you're in Germany, go and see these people. You're in the States, go and see these people. You're in, Sydney, go and see these people. And we found that, certainly not saying every single one of them, but it wasn't unheard of for our little coin shop customers that we'd recommended elsewhere wouldn't get the same level of service that we were providing at little coin shop. And that reflected badly on us. So one day I had a conversation with someone who will remain nameless for now about how I should just set up a little bullion business on the side just to support the habit of the little coin shop customers. And several years later, we employ 20 people and it's gotten slightly out of hand. And that was the creation of Bullion Now from that conversation.
That's it.
So there you go. And Legbad, you are correct. They do silver goldbacks, silverbacks, I suppose, as well. And I believe we have some on order, although can't actually remember if I placed the order or not, but I'm fairly sure we did.
Manchi Dog Collectibles says, I want to buy a 1 ounce bar of gold, but you guys don't have any. Do you know when you're getting some? Also, do you ship to Canada? Also, I asked about 5 months ago about donations. What's our answer now?
Okay, so let's come back a little bit. We have heaps of 1 ounce gold bars at the moment. I don't know what you're referencing. It may be that there's none up on the web right now.
I'm guessing the web, yeah.
So there's none on the web?
No. I'm guessing they're talking about the web.
Yeah.
So,
we have heaps. It's just we've been running around like headless chooks all day. In fact, most of the week. So we just one of us hasn't got back to list some more onto the web, but we have bucket loads of them. So don't stress about that. We're getting some, we've got them now. Also, do you ship to Canada? Yes, we ship to Canada. We ship pretty much everywhere in the world. There's a few hotspots that we're not allowed to ship to. The obvious ones where particularly Australia has a embargo on them at the moment. I don't know what this 5 months ago donations question is.
I think it was a lot of YouTubers and things like that will have an option either for super chats or just straight up donations of either supporting the stream or whatever. And I think back then our answer was basically, look, at the end of the day, we are a business. We make our money by selling bullion, and so whilst we appreciate the support of the community, and we were going to talk about maybe doing merch and things like that, we weren't looking at doing just straight up donations, because it kind of didn't sit right with us. I think was basically our answer.
I feel guilty about it if I'm 100% honest, because look, 20 years ago, before YouTube existed, as a company we would have been paying for advertising. We'd have I'm making this up, but we'd have a TV advert, a newspaper advert, and that type of thing. While very much our YouTube channel is focused towards education, and look, to a large degree, education is a good, despite the story I just told about the origins of Little Coin Shop and Bullion Now, a lot of this was set up because of the education, or the lack of education that was out there. So the YouTube channel is very important for us to get the education out there. But really, this is our advertising budget. We are advertising for Bullion Now on here. And I kind of feel like a bit of a heel if I charged, or, if we got paid. I feel bad enough that we stick YouTube adverts on there, if I'm completely honest. So I guess I'd feel incredibly guilty if people were kicking us super chats and that sort of stuff for basically running our advertising, if that makes sense. And I hope I haven't offended anyone by that, because I don't mean it that way. But yeah, it's, you want to support us, come in and buy some gold or buy some silver wherever you can. Or, if you're not in the country and you don't feel safe, having it shipped to you, then tell other people about us and recommend our Bullion Now channel, because A, it spreads the word about us, but more importantly, it spreads the word about precious metals and what role they fill in the community. And also, and I'm harking back because it's still haunting me a little bit from last week, the discussion about somebody selling back a gold bar in Melbourne for $500, like an ounce of gold for $500 to one of the dealers. Those sort of stories absolutely gut me, that there's still people out there being taken advantage of because of the lack of education and the lack of discussion and the lack of people standing up and saying, actually, that's not right. You shouldn't be doing that. Go and see these people. These guys will treat you properly. These are the sort of questions you should ask. These are the things you should ask. And even if they don't deal with bullion now, at least let's equip people with the right tools so they can go, you are a rip-off merchant, I'm going somewhere else. And it really burns me, this one.
Yeah, that one riled us up a little bit here, and I actually, there was a couple of people this week actually that brought up kind of those stalls and things like that, and yeah, that story may have been re-brought up as just a, hey, actually this is the downside of some of them.
Yeah. You don't even have to buy high premium silver. Just spread the word and trade with us where you can.
Yeah.
You know.
There is a lot of questions there asking about a special. We need to talk about specials because it's been a while since we've done one. So
I'm not even sure I didn't commit to a special this week. Did we or didn't we?
I don't think you did.
I'm certainly hoping we did, because we just, honestly, when I say we're flat out, when we have a queue out the door. So before we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I think we had 7 of us. No, Matt's not here. We had 6 of us serving in the shop. All of us were serving customers. We still had about another dozen people out in the corridor waiting to get in. We are just full to the gunnels, and I'm really, really, really conscious of the fact that one of the criticisms of Bullion Now, here we go, I don't like talking about the downsides of Bullion Now. One of the criticisms that people justifiably have about Bullion Now is sometimes you have to wait too long in the queue to get in the door. So we are busting our buns to try and bring that queue right down, so you're only ever a couple of minutes in the queue. Doesn't always work, but that's what we're trying to do. Unfortunately, that means we let other areas go, like the Friday special. I will desperately try and get a Friday special for next week.
The other battle we have with that sometimes is knowing kind of either what to squirrel away or how defensive to be of it. So, say someone walks through, sells us back 100 coins that, are going to be perfect for a live stream special. And we go, great, that'll be the Friday special. Person comes in after them and says, hey, do you have anything in buyback?
Yeah, I need 100 buybacks.
Well, yeah. And so, what do you do? Do you say, actually, no, we've got no buybacks? Do we throw them up, that's it. Do we set them aside, save them for stream? We've done that a few times, and people have then either jumped on, whether we've done it for videos or a Friday special, they've jumped on and gone, well, actually, I was in the store and I asked and they said they had nothing, and so it's this battle.
Smacked for that.
That's it. It's this battle we've got to play between the two. And yeah, it is absolutely something we still want to do. So don't think we're giving up on the idea, but we have to, one, have the actual stock either bought back or whatever to actually do as a special, and 2, the time. But yeah, it is absolutely something we still want to do.
A couple of comments in there. Sounds like you need a bigger shop.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely we do. In lieu of a special today, Michael will be doing the Macarena on stream. Ain't gonna happen. That's not something anyone needs to see. Trust me. It's fun. It's ironic, and it's very hypocritical. I got really, really, really frustrated the other day. The local post office where I live is atrocious, and I spent 40 minutes in the queue, and I was ropeable by the time I got to the front of the queue. And fortunately, about 3 seconds before I got to the person behind the counter, it wasn't their fault at the end of the day. I mean, the systems were playing up and all sorts of things. And 3 seconds before I got to the front of the queue and actually exploded all over this poor person, I thought, man, this is how some of our Bullion Now family feel when they queue up at the front door. And that kind of brought me back down to earth.
Good on you.
Oh, great. My son is obviously listening to the live stream because I just got a message through from him. Don't do the Macarena. That's how I broke my ankle. Excellent.
Amazing. I've got a couple of emails to go through. One here says, I'm looking to move to Melbourne later in the year and was wondering if you have long-term storage there, and if so, what's the price?
Now that's a on-topic question.
It is. And one that was actually an email. It's not even just one that I've sent ourselves or something.
Yeah, email from Ruben at bullionnow.com. No, look, in all seriousness, we do long-term storage here. It's not something we specialise in. I know there's There are a couple of specialist storage facilities in Melbourne.
Vaults
We're
and
not,
the like?
we're not affiliated with any of them. Although we can make some recommendations if you come into the shop.
No, I don't
Not
like doing
recommendations. We can advise you of some of them to explore, and we won't advise on some others.
that. Look, at the end of the day, the answer I give people in store is that no matter where you store your bullion, there is going to be a downside and there's going to be an upside to different spots, and
Absolutely.
That's true with storing with us. That's true with storing it at home. That's, or one of these specialist vault places. They all have, certain perks about them, and they all have things that, the downsides. One for us obviously being, we're limited by business hours.
Yeah.
So if you want to pick up your stuff on the weekend, you can't. Whereas if it's sitting in your backyard, great. But so you kind of got to weigh up some of these options. So I personally don't like giving recommendations on, this is where you should store it, because you really do kind of have to ask around, see what works specifically for you and your comfort levels.
We could do a whole live stream just on storage
We
alone.
really could.
So look, we do offer long-term. Let's cut to the chase on this one. There are other companies that specialise in pure storage in Melbourne. If that's your question, come back to us on the quiet on the side and we'll have a yarn about that. As far as Bullion Now goes, we do storage on site. We do long-term storage, means you're covered in our secure facility and under our insurance. Currently, as of today, we offer 3 months free for everyone, so they can. Really, it's designed. We did this during COVID actually, and we've just kept it on. It's really designed around you, making your purchase or making several purchases, so you can combine them together to ship them out, or combine them together, come in and pick them up. But it also gives people a chance to work out what they're going to do. I've just bought $100,000 worth of gold. Now what? Where am I going to store it? So we offer that first 3 months free. After that, we do charge. Currently, it's 0.5% per annum. Although we swallowed the last insurance increase last year. I'm just starting to come up against the next insurance premium calculation, and I know that they're going to slug the living daylights out of me. So I will guarantee you that by the end of the year, or slightly before, you're going to see an increase in our charge to store on site purely because of the insurance increase. So at the moment, it's 0.5% per annum. For I think our minimum charge, although I'd have to look this up, I think our minimum charge is $50. That's to cover our administration fees. But once you go over 50, it's 0.5% per annum based on spot price.
There's another one here that kind of, to me, reads a little bit more like it should have been sent to sales, but I'm going to read it anyway because it was sent to the live email. They say, first of all, I'm very glad PayPal is back up for international buyers such as myself. I also would like to ask if there is a chance for me to purchase a 5-ounce gold pamp for a decent price, as the only price I've seen is about 8,000 Great British pounds. If there isn't, what is the best price you can sell one for? I would very much appreciate response/help in this matter.
Okay. Can you bring us back to storage in a minute, because I forgot to say something?
Sure.
I've forgotten the question.
Pamp, 5 ounces, gold. How much?
I don't think we have any in stock at the moment. I've got some pamp. What's those case pamps that we've got in the back? They're gold. Oh, great. Ruben's shrugging his shoulders at me, so he doesn't know either. They're a larger size pamp. I want to say they're 100 grammers, but they actually might be 5 ounces. I really should go out the back and have a look. It sounds terrible, doesn't it, that I don't even know what stock we've got on hand. The problem with buying pamps in Australia is that they cost an arm and a leg. They're a premium brand anyway. I've got no criticism against that. But it just costs us so much to ship them into the country, and it takes them so long to get here, and we've got to outlay so much capital to get them here. It just makes them expensive, full stop. If you were in the UK, and I hate doing this, but if you're in the UK, I would be sourcing them from either a UK store, or I'd actually source them direct from Pamp over in Switzerland. That's going to be your cheapest option. They are going to be dear. They're not going to be cheap. The only way you're going to find them cheap is if you've got a store that has them in buyback. And they're not common, particularly in Australia. They're not common to see in buybacks. So that's pretty much the only suggestions I've got for you on that one.
Yep.
Okay, dragging you back to storage.
Yes.
We are about to start sending out some letters, some emails to people who have got stuff in storage with us, or actually more accurately, anyone that has taken advantage of our storage facility, whether it be the 3 months free or longer term, we're about to send out an email to you over the next few weeks into the next month or so, just giving you a brief update. The fact that we're looking at increasing the overall charge. Making sure that we've got the correct details, because some people that have had things in storage with us for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, we don't know if they've moved house or forgotten that they've got stock with us, or any of those sorts of things. So we want you to go in and update your details, or just check that your details are correct. On the website, if you've got a web account with us. If not, you can always send us an email or give us a call on 1300 84 84 10 and just check that the details are correct in our system. And just giving a general update, because as a lot of people would know, we took on a new system in January this year, or over the Christmas break. We moved away from our old computer system into a new computer system, and that has distracted us from actually sending out the invoices for storage. So I know there are several people who have had extended periods of free storage. That is coming to an end. As of the 1st of October, you will find that we are starting to charge for storage again, as we should have been the whole way along. We're still going to keep our 3 months free storage because we think that's a fantastic thing, and we think it's the right thing to do, in all honesty. But once you get beyond that 3 months, as of the 1st of July, expect to receive an invoice for storage sometime prior to that, and we will be charging for that moving forward. So, expect to see the email. Please take the time to fill in the email. So, check your details, that type of thing. Let us know now if you want this stuff, put into storage, and we'll start organising the invoice for it, or left into storage. Or if you want the stuff either shipped out, or you're going to come in store and pick it up so we can get it ready for that. Just let us know so we can get all those things ready, rather than you going, I've got this bill for storage. What do you mean I'm being charged for it? It's been there for ages and I haven't been stored yet. I haven't been charged yet. So I'm giving you the heads up now. I'm giving you 4 or 5 months warning. You are going to get hit with it unless you let us know that you want it shipped out, or you're going to come in and pick it up.
There's a good follow-up question there from that, and I actually think I needed to respond to a question very similar to this from one of the YouTube comments we had from quite a while ago. Sorry, it was an old video, a recent comment. If a customer stores gold at BN and the customer passes away, what happens to the gold if the family does not know about it and there is no customer's will?
Christmas party at the end of the year.
No.
No, look, we try our darndest to contact the family.
But we have to know, and that's actually part of what sending some of this info can do to us is, if we actually send out an email saying, by the way, there's stuff stored.
Yeah. Look, yeah, if we're not told, we can't tell. But having said that, and in all honesty, this sending out these emails, we're hoping will prompt some of that, because statistically speaking, we are storing stuff for people who have passed away. I have no doubt that we're going to get some people going, I didn't know Dad bought that, or I didn't know Mum had stuff stored with you. I'll guarantee we'll do that. We can't just hand it over, though, on a say-so. There needs to be a will somewhere. There needs to be
there's a legal process to follow.
There needs to be probate having been conducted somewhere before we're legally allowed to hand it over. You can't just roll in and say, Dad, fell off the perch. I want all his gold, because Dad may not have fallen off the perch, and he's going to be pretty peeved with us if we've handed it over to some random. So, yeah. Yeah,
as Mark Newcomb's just said there, there is a couple of customers that have actually specified to us, hey, I authorise this person, they have complete control over my account, they can pick it all up for me, they can, all that kind of stuff. That is something a few people have kind of prearranged with us. You're laughing at all the people laughing at your answer of...
Such a bogan answer.
Yeah.
I play to my base roots sometimes.
Simbunji's got a question. Are you aware of the changes to CommBank depositing system upcoming? Customers who don't have a CommBank account won't be able to pay you via in-branch transfers at CommBank.
Yep. Yeah, I'm aware of it. Yep.
Fair enough. Interesting one there from Arsenic Apple Juice. What if you're waiting on pre-orders that are taking longer than expected, pushing past the 3 months deadline?
No, look, this is not set in concrete. Even if this, I'm hoping to automate it in the system, but we'll see if that actually works. But even if we automate it in the system and you received one, and it was a pre-order and it's been, it took us 6 weeks to get the item in, and so you're already halfway through your 3 month period. A, if I notice, I'll make sure it doesn't start till that point there. And B, if we did send it to you, you just jump on the phone, flick us an email, say, hey, turkeys, what are you playing at? This wasn't delivered for 6 weeks, even though the invoice is dated 3 months ago. And we'd fix it up in the background. One of the things I hope we never lose at BN, but we're small enough that we can, we're a bunch of good people behind the counter, and we try our darndest to be reasonable. If you can show us that we're being unreasonable for some reason, we'll turn ourselves inside out to be reasonable and to fix the problem. So I'm not trying to trap anyone or trip anyone up. We'll try and do the right thing always.
Yep. There was an email again from our man in Japan, and he sent us through a photo there of he says he sees this castle every day. He's got a beautiful little backdrop there in Japan with a Bullion Now bag, and I thought it was super, super cool to see.
I love it.
There was a photo ages ago, I think, 2 or 3 years at this point, from a customer who sent us a very similar photo from Greenland. And it was just this awesome landscape, with a BN BN bag right in the middle of it. So I'm going to put out to people that if you live by somewhere cool and you wanted to send a photo into us, if you're okay, we don't have to identify who you were or anything like that. But yeah, send it through to the live email. Let's see some of the we get people in chat say, hey, I'm from this place or that place. But if you have a BN overseas bag, BN overseas bag challenge. If you wanted to show off somewhere cool around where you lived, doesn't have to be super nearby. Again, if you don't want to highlight exactly where you're from, but I'm going
to make that more broad.
Show us some cool locations.
Send it. Let's run a comp.
All right.
You get a free sticker.
Right.
A Bullion Now sticker. You got a Bullion Now sticker somewhere. You get a free Bullion Now sticker to the winner,
which exists now, by the way. We haven't got a separate thing on the website for them. So those that missed my comment on the video the other day, you actually have to search sticker on the website for now. But I've popped a link there to them if you hadn't seen already. Anyway, continue.
So take a photo of a BN bag. It can be anywhere. Somewhere unusual, nice scenery, unusual place, unusual circumstances.
No.
Be a little judicious. This is a family program. But send them in. We'll run a bit of a comp. What do we reckon? The best 3 we'll send free stickers to.
Sure.
There you go.
And I don't know. We'll wait and see. We might even... we'll have a chat after this. We might go more than that. We'll see. I'll see if I can convince him.
So there you go. Ruben's going to make a donation from his stack.
I want to, speaking of competitions that we've run in the past, Michael, I just wanted to, we had this entry come through recently.
You've got to remember I'm on slight delay.
Just
There's no reflection of the kookaburra in the window behind it.
They actually knew you would say something like that, and there is actually a video as well, just to kind of give some extra proof. And I actually hadn't loaded that up, but they have actually
Flick the photo up again.
It is absolutely there. It is absolutely real. You can't deny it.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. I still say it's just a passing, like statistically, there are so many kookaburras out there. Statistically, one's got to land on a bird bath every so often, but it's not like power lines where you see them on there all the time, or fence posts. I'm sticking by what I'm saying.
All right,
that was the dodgiest design that Perth Mint could have come out with that year.
There was a question asked a couple of times from someone that I missed before. It's a very broad question, so I'm not sure what your answer is going to be, but it was by Sniper72, and they say, what silver do you recommend? It's super broad, I know, but hit me with something.
I don't know how to answer that one. This is not financial advice
Low
or stacking advice or any of those things.
Low premium.
Well, look, I mean, if we threw that open to the chat now, you would get such a variety of answers because it depends. Everyone's circumstance is different. And in fact, even within each person, I would argue, let's use me for the example. I have different stacks. Like I allocate a certain amount of funds to low premium, bulk, crappy, chunky bars. The bigger the better. I don't care because they're just looking for exposure to the silver price. I then also have an allocation towards, those unusual bars. I've spoken many times about how I have a bent for the odd size, the old world, the unusual bars, the swirls, those sort of things. You can't really call them art bars, but they're, like the ones the moldy old ones that no one really likes. I love them. And so I kind of have an allocation towards that. And then I have an allocation towards coins because, like I said, I come originally from the dark side. I very much like collecting the coin side. Have we dropped out, Rubes? Because I'm...
No.
No. Okay, it must be just my computer. So I'm very much from that dark collecting side. So there's a component of my collection or my stack. The money for my stack goes towards that side of it. So even within myself, I can't answer that question because it depends. Is this money to go towards I just want exposure to the silver price, in which case I'm just buying the cheapest, lowest premium stuff I can lay my sticky fingers on, or am I buying it because I want a coin, I like the coin, I also invest in coins and I think this coin is going to be, it's going to increase not just in its exposure to spot, but also in its exposure to the collector market. So it will increase in value over time from a collector's perspective. So it's very difficult to answer that question just without any background information to it because every single person is different.
There's a question there if we're getting any of the Royal Canadian Mint bars or coins.
We try to. The Canadian Mint's hard work is probably the way to answer that question. From Australia, they have an agreement with one particular. Sorry, my computer's playing up here. I'm actually trying a different internet service. They actually have not an exclusive, but a preferred account with one of the Australian bullion dealers, so it becomes difficult to stock their stuff consistently at a good price. So we get in what we can when we can. That doesn't always mean we stock everything of the Canadian Mint.
Did you see the comments on the traffic light unboxing?
No.
There was a bunch
what did I miss?
There was a bunch of people calling you out.
Oh, the Philly?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe I did. I was trying to work that out. I reckon that's the 5th time I've done that on camera.
Yeah.
The Philly is one of my favourite
You
coins.
You said the favourite. You said the international, out of the.
I'm quite happy to stick with that part of it. Is that what you were pinging me on? That it's my favourite?
Well, it was your favourite and the organ on the back versus the gate. That's
called it a building again.
No, I think you called it a gate.
Did I?
I think.
Blimey. I don't know what I was on that day, but I must stay away from it from now on. Look, oops.
Sorry, I'm not trying to, but there was a few comments about it. I just wanted to highlight that we do actually read them, and we do make mistakes from time to time.
I did see that one. That's not a mistake. That was just pure stupidity. Like I said, I think that's the 5th time on camera I've called it. I hope I didn't say a gate. I think it's the 4th or 5th time I've called it a building, and I know damn well it's not a building. I don't know what part of my brain short circuits when I get in front of a camera.
I think it's the Philly Monster Box, which is actually, I believed,
a reproduction
of the building, and so we kind of get that in our heads sometimes. I think. Your mouse saying there they thought it was a building as well. So that's it. It is actually one that is up for debate. And I think the reason that I said gate before is that's another one that I've heard people say, oh, it's a gate, isn't it? Like,
No.
I think it is one that is very hotly contested. So, yeah.
I apologise. It was like I said, I don't know what was going on that day.
Oh, dear. The other thing I wanted to mention, in as far as things we've got coming up, is the saber-toothed tiger coming out of the Royal Canadian Mint. I wanted to, because I actually I kind of screwed up. We all kind of screwed up because I didn't realize, but I assumed that was the next in their Creatures of the North series. It's a completely different series. It's
Do you know what the series is called?
Yeah, it's the start of their Ice Age series.
Oh, there you go.
Which means that presumably, we're done with the Creatures of the North, because we haven't heard any news on that front, which means that it was only the Kraken and the werewolf.
Yeah.
Which just, I don't know, I was expecting them to kind of...
What other creatures of the North are there?
I don't know, I was expecting a
Yeti?
Sasquatch or something, yeah. I don't know. I was just, I was expecting something else. But yeah, so that's it. When we actually last spoke about them, I think we said, oh yeah, it'll be the next in the Creatures of the North, but no. But yeah, so speaking of stuff out of the Royal Canadian Mint, keep an eye out for some of them, hopefully coming soon.
Hopefully, they've actually... Am I allowed to say they've arrived?
I mean...
I probably shouldn't.
If I say no now, you've kind of said it anyway, so...
But don't call up. Please don't call up about them or send in emails. We haven't processed them in yet, so everyone's going to look at you funny and go, I know nothing about that. So just stand by. We will release them to the web. Don't stress.
Yeah. But no, that's it. I found it very interesting to find out that they'd only done 2 in that series. That's all, and that's it. This one actually is the start of a completely new series.
Yeah. Greg Clark, is there any chance of more auctions? Absolutely there is. I'm not kidding you when I say there is a backlog of about 300 items that we are trying to get up on the auction site. But it's not happened yet. Again, it comes back to those time things where, we need. If you're looking for a job, we're actually advertising for people at the moment. We need someone to be Adam's right-hand man. We've actually run interviews for that last week and this week and into the start of next week. We also need an IT guru. So if you're an IT guru that can run a website, we would love to hear from you. So send in your resume to, do we have that red hot link there? Resume, RESUME at bullionnow.com.au. And we would love to hear from you and have a yarn. So yeah, if we could get someone in like that, or a couple of people in covering those sorts of things, it would free some of us up to list some of these 300 flippin' items that have been collecting and taking up more and more room in the back of the safe, to a point where Brett's just about doing his nana over it. That would be really good.
Yeah, BJ dedicated stuff for BN auction listings. Yeah, let's go wild with it.
My computer's really playing up now.
That's right. We're getting close to the hour and a half there. I reckon we start to wind it down.
Somebody's just sent through a question about, is there going to be a Bullion Now store in Hobart?
I don't think they said that. I think they said, is it true that there will be? They're saying it with a little bit more certainty than...
So they're spreading the rumour as though it already exists.
That's it.
I like it. Look, we're certainly considering... Again, this comes back to time. So please, if you're looking for... we are exploring options of BN stores in other states. Tasmania is certainly one of my red hot favourites.
Simbunji wouldn't let us go to Hobart.
Yeah, I would love to go to Hobart, but we just don't get the love down there. We did the BN World Tour down to Hobart, and everyone but 2 people, I think, that was at the World Tour in Hobart came from northern Tasmania, and everyone from around Hobart, Simbunji, said, oh no, that's the other side of town, that's too far away from me. So if we set up a BN store, I'm starting to lean towards Launceston.
Hey. Phil T says, how often have I been in the store at BN and been told by the guys that they know nothing about anything new coming out, then an hour after I leave, there's a new item released?
Seriously.
Sounds about right.
You want to see Brett go into, I don't know what you'd call it, but just walk into the store, almost any of the guys actually, walk into the store and say, Michael said, and you just watched it, they just explode. It's
faces drop.
Yeah, that's right. So it was funny. It was about 2 weeks ago. Brett actually cornered me. We've got an office a little bit further up the corridor. Brett cornered me in the office and absolutely ripped me out and banned me from coming into the shop anymore because of the trouble I was causing him. So, yes.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on there before we...
We've been going an hour and a half.
We have.
Without Matt.
Without Matt.
Far out. I think we need to draw a line under it right there.
There you go. We'll call it quits.
Thank you very, very much for tuning in. We do this weekly, so we will be back next Friday at 2:30 Melbourne time, Australian Eastern Standard Time. I believe we've got Matt back next week. So this week he's up at the Brisbane Ander show running all of that because he's the coordinator for Ander for their shows. I don't know what his official title is, but he kind of does the background work for all the Ander shows, which is the Australian Numismatic Dealers Association. But I believe he's back next week. Ruben will be making, not an appearance, but he'll be behind the camera running all the technical side. I'll make an appearance because you can't shut me up and keep me away from the camera. And we'll see who else drops in. We will talk all things bullion and several other topics that we seem to branch off to at various times. I can't tell you how much it means to us that people actually tune in to us. You know, there's a few hundred people watch us live and a few thousand people watch us afterwards. And it's an incredible honour and we don't take that lightly. We love it. But we also encourage you to share it around because, like I said, partway through this live stream, we really do want to get the word out there. We really want people to be educated and we want people to be looked after and not ripped off in this industry because there's too much of that goes on. So I'll get off my soapbox now. I'll say thank you very, very much for tuning in and I will see you next week at 2:30.
See ya.